The question is that the motion be agreed to. The Honourable Maurice Williamson.
Speaker, can I, in response to the Chair of the Regs Review Committee, make a few points about this issue? And first of all, starting from the fact that I think the whole issue of the Plumbers, Gas Fitters and Drain Layers Board has been quite shambolic for a long period of time. Members on the other side will know that Dr Michael Cullen, while Minister, sacked the entire board at least twice because of the complete turmoil that place was in. But the good news, sir, is that under the chairmanship of Hazel Armstrong and the board of recent times, the place is really getting its act together. We recently were in receipt of a report from the Auditor-General having a look into the operation of the board, and it gave it quite a reasonably good bill of health. It said there were still some things wrong that needed tidying. There was a heap of stuff wrong from the past that had already been addressed, and basically was a report card which says OK at present, poor in the past, and looking to get the future quite tidy. And when I met with Hazel Armstrong just this morning, I conveyed my delight at the progress that the board's making. But the two issues that we're debating here today, sir, was to do with the use of disciplinary fees and how they were set, and more importantly whether a course of or a continued professional development program that the board had put in place through regulations could stay in place. And sir, I want to make it clear that I think both of those issues are being dealt with. I now have an output agreement with the Plumbers, Gas Fitters and Drain Layers Board, and in that output agreement these issues will be dealt with. So I don't agree with the timing of this, because the timing on the disciplinary fees would have basically meant the Plumbers, Gas Fitters and Drain Layers Board was technically insolvent for a period of time if that had stood, and fortunately that was withdrawn. But then a split recommendation was resubmitted without our knowledge, and the second one would have made the continuous professional development program not mandatory. And I want to say to the leader, or to the chair of the Regulations Review Committee, this. I think it's important, and I think he actually covered it well at the end of his speech. It's really important that if a small group of people from whatever industry, from whatever sector come to a select committee and say to that committee, we're unhappy and think this is wrong, then that committee's got an obligation to go out and say, is there any large body out there that represents this industry, any industry association or any large body, and why don't we get them in to find out if this is their view? Because I think that who came before the committee was 3 plumbers, one of them who's not even registered. 3 plumbers, one of them who's not even registered. Well, I want to say, sir, that the Master Plumbers, Gas Fitters and Drain Layers in New Zealand Incorporated, the Master Plumbers Association, I call them, has, listen to this, 733 businesses as its members, which employ 3,800 tradespeople, and which has about 400 of those employees also joining Master Plumbers simply because they want to be an employee member. This means they represent about 60% of the entire industry. And I think it would have behoved the committee at the time to have said, let's go out to a massive chunk of the represented industry, ask their view, and if their view aligns with these 3 that have come before us, we're on. But I can tell you, sir, it does not. It does. Okay, sir, all I can tell you is that the Master Plumbers, Gas Fitters and Drain Layers New Zealand do not support this disallowance motion, and I'll tell you why. We've already got clarified on the disciplinary fees issue, and that means that we'll be able to bring a new regime in next year, so I'm pleased about that. Yep. But the second part here is the disallowance of the mandatory nature of the continuous professional development. And sir, what I can tell you is that many employers and industry suppliers out there have geared up their programs, they've invested in these continuous professional developments, which I think both sides, I'm sure both sides think is an essential part of the industry, that people continue to keep their competence levels and their skills up. Many tradespeople have also spent money on course fees and taken time out of their businesses to participate in these courses, and if this motion was allowed to stand, sir, those people would have actually had their ground cut right out from under them. So I want to say I thank the chairman of the committee for raising the issues, although they are both the disciplinary fees issue and the continuous professional development are both addressed under the new output agreement that I have signed with Hazel Armstrong and the board, and we are dealing with them. But I also thank him for his comments at the end that in future, if anything like this comes up, the committee will go out and seek a much wider cohort of view, because I am certain, sir, that just because a small number of people, and I know members of the House will have had this all the time, there'll be a small number of people in any industry you can name. There'll be a small number of, boners at the meatworks who have a particular view about the world. But does that reflect in the Meat Workers Industry Association or the Meat Workers Union's view? And if it does, and if the vast bulk of their members support it, then it's clearly got that mood. So, sir, I want to say to the House that the government is going to be voting against this disallowance motion. We're going to vote against it not because this isn't something that needed to happen, and it will happen, but the timing of both, had the first motion, the Tim McIndoe motion, stayed, there would have been serious trouble with regards to the board's funding issue. It would have been technically insolvent. That was fixed by a withdrawal of the first motion, but then the split motion would also send massive uncertainty out across the whole sector. The whole sector of plumbers, gasfitters and drain layers would now not know what it meant to have a continuous professional development regime, basically an upskilling system for their members. And I think it's important that they have that certainty. So the government will vote against this disallowance motion, but I give assurance to the members of the committee who may be concerned that the new regime that comes in as of next year, as we bring the output agreement with the Plumbers, Gasfitters and Drain Layers Board to fruition, will address both the issues. In fact, the disciplinary levy stuff is already under control and being fixed. And I suggest to the House that we don't take a lot more time about it, because I think that the Regs Committee did what they thought was a right thing to do at the time. I've heard the Chairman now say he will go out and consult more widely so we get a representative view. And, sir, if it had been a representative view of the entire industry, if, for example, the Master Plumbers Association had agreed with this, I wouldn't be standing here today, because it really doesn't affect me either way. But I think it's quite clear the industry does want a continuous professional development regime to stay in place, and that will happen by the fact that the government will vote against the disallowance motion.